And I'm just starting the recorder, and it looks like everything is working. If you could just go ahead and introduce yourselves. And I see some people introducing Kelly from Alberta, Maureen from Florida. Thanks. I'm really glad that you enjoyed the healthy living at the library. Yeah, keep if you would just go ahead and keep introducing yourselves. So we have half an hour, so I'm going to try to go pretty quickly through this, so we have time for Q&A. And so, yeah, thanks again, of course, for San Jose State University School of Information. So just a quick outline, we're going to start with just a whirlwind tour of what libraries have been up to in terms of sustaining engagement with their communities during the pandemic, before focusing in on small and rural libraries. And then after we've gone through this whirlwind tour, we'll take a step back and go over the idea of placemaking, so we can reimagine our relationship with the built environments around us. And we'll just end by shifting the conversation from what you can do as individuals to who could you work with in your communities. And so just to kind of start with an orientation, this is from the U.S. Department of Education, 9 ways to promote environmental consciousness. And number 1 on their list is get outdoors and get moving. And if you know me, if you've encountered me in other conferences, other publications, that's what I'm all about. I'm all about getting outside and getting moving. And that's what we're going to cover during this half hour. And so this is also something people have noticed during the pandemic. Librarians are going outside like they never have before. And so Eric Kleinenberg recently wrote for the Knight Foundation that a number of libraries have effectively unfolded, moving services outdoors and moving librarians to other spaces, finding new ways for people to access the library, even though the building itself has been closed. So what does that actually look like? So it looks like doing chalk challenges, and like Hayes, Kansas did shortly after shelter in place, encouraging participants to go outside, create an uplifting image on the chalk, snap a photo, post it, and share the creativity and positivity in the community. It looks like the Bloomfield Township Public Library in Michigan saying there are many wonderful online resources available to you, but it's also important to take a break outside for some fresh air and nature every day. Or creating story walks like this library in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, where they teamed up with a Girl Scout who did basically all of the work to get this permanent story walk installation up and ready. And kind of just another example from Indiana, where they actually end their story walk with a quick plug to their virtual programming. So combining engagement and outdoors in the built environment with virtual programming. Or doing things like virtual walk-run challenges like this library in Arizona. And just if you're logging in, I'm just doing a quick whirlwind tour. So I'm going to go through a whole bunch of examples in a very scattershot fashion before taking a step back. So if you feel a little bit overwhelmed, don't worry. We're just going through a tour of what libraries have been up to during the COVID-19 pandemic. Libraries have been investing even more in community gardening spaces. So libraries that have already had gardens, like this library on the right in Forsyth County, has brought more attention to the fact that you can come and get a raised bed plot at your library. Yeah, and Amy, I'll be happy to share my slides. I'll probably post them on my website as well. So my website's just letsmovelibraries.org. I'll post them up there, but yeah, I'll be happy to share. And then for libraries that don't already have gardens, they're starting to create them, like this library in August of 2020. It's not anything too complicated. You have some cardboard, you have some boards, you put some soil in, you get your garden ready for the next year. Simple steps to share the built environment. And Maureen has shared in the chat, I've been writing about some examples for web junctions. So Maureen shared in the chat the example of doing something simple like creating a sidewalk obstacle course. So you can't have people in the building. Can you inspire people to be active and be engaged outdoors by transforming your built environment? Other libraries, as part of their commitment to food justice and food access, have created outdoor food pantries. This is an example from Woodstock, Illinois. We're working with partners that created a public pantry that people can drop off and add to what they wish. And just during growing season, I know growing season is coming to a close, but during summer 2020, lots of libraries were thinking creatively about how to get food to people who needed it. And Perry, Iowa, they worked with their local health department to bring free produce to a farmer's market. And Erie, Kansas, they simply set up a table in their foyer where if you had extra food from your garden, you could drop it off at the library, and anyone who wanted it could pick it up and take it home. So simple things. Sometimes the best thing to do is the simplest thing. Celebrating Hula Hoop Day at the Pikney Public Library, thanks to their partnerships, thanks to their, with a local foundation, everyone who come got a free hula hoop, and kids were able to spread out and learn how to use that. And this is one of my favorite examples, so I'm just gonna pause here. In Concord, Massachusetts, for happening. They're encouraging all these local businesses and organizations to create a scarecrow and then bring the scarecrow to the library lawn. And so people can't come in the building, but you can celebrate your community's creativity through something like this. I thought this was just such a creative idea that really exemplifies the spirit of thinking creatively about using space, using the built environment to encourage your community to continue to be engaged with your library. Just more examples, teaming up with Parks and Recreation for outdoor story times. And as you see here in Toledo, the story times actually have an environmental theme. So going to parks to read stories, and even better if you're talking about the environment, they're talking about sticks and stones and trees as part of their park story time. And it's not just about kind of, there's also technology. This is an example I just found today, laptops on the lawn at the Greenfield Public Library. And that's basically what it is. We have some laptops, come and use them on the lawn of the library. It's that simple. The Scarecrow Festival was Concord, Massachusetts. Yeah, concordlibrary.org. I really love that example too. And I'm just actually gonna jump ahead for the sake of time, and I'll come back. So, well, I have, as always, I have way too many slides, so I'm going to jump around for a little bit. But really, the main idea is that we're talking about reimagining our libraries as places made by our communities. Whether you're encouraging folks to bring some scarecrows down to your library, or in this case in North Carolina, having your friends of the library volunteer to beautify the library grounds. It's all about reimagining how the library as an outdoor space engages with its community. So I've been writing a lot about this, and yeah, so let me go back to where I was here. So if we're thinking about all this stuff that we can do outside, everything from shutting down a block of the city, as they're doing every Wednesday in Brooklyn, New York, a city block, Macon Street between Lewis and Stuyvesant is shut down in New York City for Macon Library Outdoors, outdoor yoga, doing outdoor bicycling on greenways next to libraries. This is another one that I really love that really exemplifies the spirit of creativity. This is just another day at the library during COVID-19 in Russellville, Indiana, population 1,094, where on that particular day, a farmer came by with hay bales that librarians and staff unloaded and created this hay maze. in their outdoor space. So what better example to really illustrate the spirit of creativity, community engagement, and thinking creatively about how to transform your built environment to foster meaningful experiences that ultimately lead to an increased appreciation for nature and the outdoors. And as always, when we're thinking about doing things outside, we have to be mindful of the weather. And I'm certainly aware of the fact that for many of us, we're heading into winter and how difficult it will be to continue to engage our communities outside. And so this is from Ontario, with a Kingston Frontenac Library. They had some runaway story walk signs as they tried to escape from the square. They are now heavily reinforced to withstand strong gusts of wind. But this is a reality. I don't want to mislead people and imply that just taking things outside is going to be a panacea for the pandemic. We have to be aware of the challenges associated with outdoor programming, and we have to be thinking ahead. And by thinking ahead, I think we need to take a lead. We have to take a cue from our partners in Parks and Recreation and start thinking about things like rain dates. So maybe we have one date for a program. We need to have a backup date in case the weather doesn't allow it to do us on the first day. And as we advertise programs, say, hey, we're going to try to do it this Saturday. If the weather's terrible, look for us the next Saturday. Yeah, the winter ideas, and I think the winter is definitely going to be a challenge. On the winter idea, so let me see. I'm pretty sure I have a slide here. No, I don't have a slide. But one of the things that I did, as some of you know, I'm actively involved in the Association for Rural and Small Libraries. And so I did a survey in September on kind of libraries that are doing physically active outdoor programming. And so one library, they actually told me that one of the things that they've done in past years and will probably do during this year is that they actually have their town, when they plow the streets, they actually make a mountain of snow in front of the library. And then the library gives out sleds for kids in the village to go sledding down this mountain of snow. And so thinking about Winterfest, thinking about holiday themed business story walks. So I know for many years a number of communities have done downtown story walks during the winter months. And I'm gonna go ahead and put a chat. If you don't know I have no idea what I'm talking about when I say downtown story walk. I'm gonna put a chat in the link here. But many libraries have done during the winter holidays. They've done downtown story walks. So something like that would be the perfect example of kind of an outdoor program to start working towards as the weather starts to cool down. Yeah, snowman building contest. I love that idea. A great example. So I think it's definitely going to be a challenge as the weather starts to cool. But I think we're creative people. We'll figure this out. And so these are just some other examples of what, when I did this survey, librarians, small and rural librarians told me they're doing. Some libraries are placing geocaches around the community, maintaining them, and then challenging their community members to go out and find them. So that's kind of analogous to the scavenger hunt idea. Of course, a story walk. Here's a picture of a story walk in Kansas City. Sidewalk obstacle courses. I know Maureen put that link in the chat. I really love this example. So someone told me they're doing a drive-through story time where families engage in early learning stations from their car. At the end, there's a place to park and people can take turns social distancing, running through an obstacle course that the library has created. So you do the early learning stations in your car. People want to get out of their car and run around. The library has an obstacle course for them. And then thinking about kind of the gamification of programming. So maybe to discourage people from being all together in one place outside, thinking about something like a bingo style sheet, or you could even use your Beanstalk app if you have your Beanstalk app from summer reading, incentivizing people to do things like go take a walk with your family, go on a bike ride, parking lot bingo. I like that idea. Let me just keep an eye on the time here. And so when we think about all these activities, I think it can also be helpful to think about what's the theory behind it. So ultimately, I am a professor of library and information science. So I work in the realm of theory. And so the theory behind this is something called placemaking. So I'm sure everyone is familiar with maker spaces and making programming. Well, what about the idea that we can literally make the places around us and remake them, transform them into something new? We can do this by having teen paint sidewalk obstacle courses, having chalk the walk events, like this example from Tennessee. And so that's really my challenge to you. How can you, in your library, work with your community to collectively reimagine and reinvent public space? And I think really the COVID-19 pandemic, if there's any silver lining of this, it's really encouraging us all to really rethink our relationship to the built environment around us. And so if you want to get inspired for some more examples, I work a lot with WebJunction. And if you look at their small libraries, Create Smart Spaces, they have a series of transformation stories. And one of the transformation stories focuses on the library in Wilton, New Hampshire, which is the only current member of the project that actually focused on transforming the outdoor physical space for active learning and community engagement. And so you can read about how they installed a garden, how they installed a story walk, and more importantly, how they did all of these things through collaboration with their community members. Just a couple other examples of placemaking. So this is one of my favorites in Multnomah County in Portland, Oregon. Every year, including in 2020, they've had this bike lane art contest in which youth are invited to create art, and then the winning art that's submitted at the library as part of this book, Bike to Books initiative is literally painted into the bike lane. So as folks are biking around the city, they'll see art created by community members at public libraries. And you can go on and on. There's just so many examples here that I could spend the rest of the day talking about all the examples. But one thing, so why is this important? And I think if we're transforming the built environment around our library, there's actually science to show that it increases people's comfort with the library. So some political scientists, they showed people two images of a library. One was kind of plain. There was it was just basically just an entrance. All that they did was change that image to put a couple plants here and a lighting. And they found that there was a 10% increase in people feeling extremely welcome attending an event at the library. So if you're kind of sprucing up your outdoor space, people are going to see you and your library as more attractive and more like a place they want to spend time at. And I see a lot of great stuff here in the chat. And so there's a question about partnering with running groups. But just some more things. So again, there's a lot of things that you can do, kind of sidewalk chalk portrait contest, draw your theme, place yourself in the drawing and take a picture. This is an example from Alberta. Another kind of getting teenagers involved. So I've seen a lot of examples of teenagers being asked to chalk the walk, create art. Don't forget about your scouts. I think scouts and 4-H groups are really looking for activities right now. And so I've seen Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, 4-H groups, basically any youth group is the perfect partner to work with in these projects. This is Onondaga County Public Libraries in New York, where they worked with a Girl Scout troop to get their story walk up and running. Working with Boy Scouts in Pennsylvania to install a little free food pantry in front of the library. and really, once you start working, once you start reaching out, the possibilities are endless. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm going over all of these examples, is to really inspire you. Because really the main thing that I think is that the question is not what could you do, but who could you work with? That's the most important question. Who could you work with? And apologies again for this typo. It says how could you work with? It should say who could you work with. No one should try any of these alone. I would say that's probably a terrible idea to try to do any of these things completely by yourself. Because when we're talking about transforming our built environments, that has to be a community endeavor. That has to be creating opportunities to engage your community. And so if you want to learn more, I have a website called Let's Move in Libraries with a monthly newsletter. I'm constantly seeking and trying to publish examples to inspire others. This is the most recent story that we put on our website featuring the Ringtown Area Library in Pennsylvania, where they have scavenger hunts and story walks. And they did it with basically no budget in this small town in Pennsylvania. So definitely get connected with us, share your story, and ultimately my goal is to really continue to build this movement around libraries and the outdoor built environment. Next Thursday, we're doing an hour webinar with America Walks on the multiple benefits of walking and walkable communities, and how libraries can get involved and help lead these efforts to create communities that are more walkable, more accessible for people, so that we're not always having to get in our cars and drive everywhere when we want to go. And so I just wanted to really just end here and to see, yeah, any tips for farm communities. So yeah, that's a great question, Amy. So the first question I would ask Amy, is there any Rails to Trails initiatives around you? So that's one thing that I would, so I'll go back to this. I skipped over this really quickly, but this example here, this is actually in Western Illinois. So this is a very rural farm community in Western Illinois. And like a lot of farm communities, like a lot of rural communities, they're trying to create more, transform old railroad tracks into walking and bike trails. So basically, they built this Rails to Trails that goes along 5 really small rural libraries. And the library said, hey, let's get involved with this, let's support it. So they started this initiative called Bike to Trail, Library to Library. And this started a couple of years ago, actually. So I would definitely encourage taking a look at this website if you're interested in what could be done to promote walking and farm communities. Here's the link here. Yeah. And so let's see, yeah, so the One Step at a Time program, and it's through WebJunction. That's correct, Peggy. You'd sign up for that through WebJunction. Let's see. And so, yeah, we're now kind of in the Q&A period. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and just put them in the chat. How do we get staff around that says we can't go outside during COVID, because then every group will want to do something and we can't control everything? Oh my, Laura, that's a complicated question. So Laura, I would say, so my initial reaction to that Laura, is that think about what you can do to encourage people to be outside, even if you're not doing it in the form of a program. So just to go back to this example, so you could think about putting things on social media, like this example. So so if you really cannot do any outdoor programming per se, one of the things that you can do is to promote things on your social media about the importance of getting outside. I've seen, and I can share this with you later, but in the McCracken County Public Library in Paducah, Kentucky, they do a backyard exploration program. So every week, the librarian basically just pastes to the Facebook Live a new video about things that you can discover in your backyard. So I think there's ways to kind of encourage encourage folks to be outside and be active, even if your administration doesn't want the staff to be doing outdoor programming per se. Let's see, Kay asked, do we have the resources, recommendations for how to work with city, county bureaucracies? Yeah, so that's Kay, that's definitely another complicated question. And so what I would say to that is that what I've seen a lot of libraries, when libraries want to do something different, oftentimes the best way to get started is by showing your city administrators what other libraries are doing. So if you can show like, hey, check it out, like look at all these libraries that have put community gardens on their lawns. What a great idea. If all these other libraries are able to do this, why can't we? So sometimes that can be a message to get approval, be like, check out all this stuff that other libraries are doing. Like, why can't we do this? Let's see, liability concerns for potential injuries while walking, running, biking. So yeah, so I think it depends. What I've heard from a lot of libraries, it depends on kind of your insurance. It depends on your administration. Oftentimes, if a program takes place outdoors and you tell people that they're kind of participating at their own risk, that can be sufficient. Sometimes libraries do prefer to have people sign waivers of liability. So if you go to my website and click on resources, I've actually collected about 30 examples of waivers of liability if you want to download one that you could adapt for your programs. But I think in general, most libraries that I've talked to have found that if they're doing the program in an outdoor public space, they're covered by whatever their town government or city government may have in terms of insurance coverage. Post link, yeah. So Lynn, that's not on the link with the girl blowing bubbles. That's actually in one of my newsletters. But I could definitely post it. I'm pretty sure it's either the March or April 2020 newsletter. Basically, as soon as COVID-19 happened, I started tracking kind of how. Actually, I know a good place to find it. So I've been working with the nonprofit. The Children in Nature Network. So I've been writing some articles about how libraries find nature during the pandemic. So if you go to this link right here, this is one of the articles that I wrote, how public libraries are helping us find nature during the crisis. And if you click on that link, I actually include this image so you could then go and get the original. But yeah, great question. And I see we're running out of time. So this has been a whirlwind. Just really quickly, if folks have never done a story walk before and they want to get started, go to this link, Curiosity City. They've actually negotiated with a book publisher to have a ready-to-go story walk with all the information around it. So just go there. You can download a PDF, print it up, post it, and get started with the story walk if you've never done one before. And the only cost is the cost of printing, and you're good to go. You don't need to take apart a book. Just download, print, and bam, you're off to the races. Yeah, and I know we're close to time, but I'm going to go ahead and put my email as well in the chat. So if anyone wants to follow up with me, this is the topic that keeps me up at night and gets me going every morning. So this is my favorite thing to talk about. And I would be more than happy to discuss further if folks want to talk more. And yeah, and Kate, I'm really glad to hear that you were an environmental educator. And I've actually seen more, Kate, I've actually encountered a number of people like you. So I'm seeing more and more. So the program I mentioned in McCracken County in Paducah, that librarian who's doing the Backyard Adventures program on Facebook Live, she has a background in biology. So I think as we get more people who have those backgrounds into the field, we're only going to be able to do more and more. Excellent. So I love the zoom in on nature. That's wonderful. And what a great title too, Peggy. Very creative. Yeah, thanks everyone. And I'll post the slides. So if you go to my events page on Let's Move in Libraries, I'll have the slides up there later today if anyone wants to download them. Yeah, hi Danielle. Good to see you. Hope you're enjoying your retirement. So thanks everyone. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recorder.